Dan Miller joins us, Fox 2 Sports Director. You can watch us on the Fox Local app on your smart TV, Roku, Fire TV. Feel free to download that app. It's a great app. You can watch us 2 to 4 every day live. Dan Miller, Fox 2 Sports Director. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Dan.
What's up, boys? How you doing?
Good to see you, man.
Doing good, looking good, feeling good. Dan,
feeling good. Walking tall, first day in Europe.
I'm telling you, my goodness. Well, let me just start with this. Before we look back, let's look ahead. Guy that seems to be on the Lions' radar right now, DJ Reader from the Cincinnati Bengals. Seems like he played 14 games last year. He's a good run defender. This, to me, feels like a guy that the Lions absolutely need in free agency. How do you see it with DJ Reader? What kind of legitimacy would you give these reports that he's either in the building or will be in the building this week?
Well, I think if he's coming in the building, that's obviously a sign of interest. B, it's also a sign, I think, that they want to get a look at him because he finished last year with an injury. And I think they want to see how significant that is, how he's coming along, and what the timetable might be for him to come back. I don't know anything about that, but I think the physical side of it is going to be key for him, and that's probably why you did not see him come off the board early and just sign a contract with the team, as you saw a number of these guys do. Look, he is one of the better run stoppers in the league. Not going to give you a ton, I don't think, in terms of pass rush, but that's okay. He plays a significant role that this team could use. They were already good against the run last year, but you can certainly be better. And I think we know that they can upgrade on what they're pairing right now with Aleem McNeil in the middle of that defensive line, and Reader would certainly be one of those guys that would do that. But don't know what the competition for him is, don't know what the ultimate price for him would be. But I think the first thing you got to figure out is just what that, I think it was a quad tendon that he had last year, that you got to figure out where that thing stands.
And then you look at what they have done so far. I mean, I'm not sure that going to, anybody that they signed, Amik Robertson, Carlton Davis, Marcus Davenport is going to knock you off your chair. But then you do look into these guys a little bit further and you're like, yeah, these guys can play. Seems like Brad Holmes has a plan.
Oh, I think he's definitely got a plan, and I think he's sticking to that plan, which is to find guys that they believe fits their system. And it's unfortunately for a lot of fans that want to see them spend $90 million on somebody, that's just not what they're doing. And look, I'm not here to tell you that you can't have that opinion or that you shouldn't want to go out. Look, would I like to have Danielle Hunter? Yeah, I'd love to have Danielle Hunter. Yeah. But that's just not how they do business. And that's not how they've done business since they walked in the door. And Brad Holmes pretty much told you after the season they weren't going to be going after high-dollar guys. So, I don't understand some of the head banging against the wall from some people because there's just nothing to indicate that that's where they've, directed their efforts in the past. But it also isn't over. There's a lot of players out there that are going to help football teams win games right now. And maybe they didn't find their market at the outset of free agency. They're going to sign with somebody, and I'm confident the Lions are going to sign a couple more guys that are going to help them. But it's also fairly clear that a significant portion of what they're banking on is improvement from within. And I think we've seen that from 3-13-1 to 9-8 to 12-5 in an NFC Championship game.
And Dan, one of the things too, I think you're so right about this. These guys are telegraphing exactly what they're going to do. And I thought Dan Campbell, and I don't remember if it was at the combine or if it was in the end of year press conference. He was saying, he's like, look, we don't care how talented a guy is. If he doesn't fit the locker room, we're not going to re-sign him. And then you hear about, this Amik Robertson. One of the number one things you hear about him is what a great locker room guy he is. You got Max Crosby fawning over this guy. Juxtapose that with CJ GJ signing with the Eagles last night. Do you think CJ Gardner-Johnson just wasn't a priority for this team? Do you think they would have liked to have had him back? What's your take on Gardner-Johnson?
I just think the landscape changed on Gardner-Johnson here. I think when they signed him, they had no idea how good Brian Branch was going to be. Maybe they thought, and obviously that would have been a signing before the draft. But look, Brian Branch came in here and stole a job and took that nickel job, and nobody could get it away from him. Then I think with the way that Iffy played it the way at the end of last year, Kirby being another safety, I mean, the possibility that you could also put Branch at safety and put Robertson at the nickel. I mean, They have options now, and I think those options kind of took away where they saw Gardner Johnson playing. And it's not a comment against him. It's just the landscape changed, and I don't think they felt like the kind of price tag he got in Philadelphia was going to be worth them paying here based on the guys that had emerged in the way that depth chart was coming around. Doesn't say he's not a really good football player. He is, and it was exciting when they got him last year. Obviously, I don't think it worked out for reasons nobody could foresee or control. But at the end of the day, I think right here, right now, that depth chart just looks different than it did the day that they signed him last year.
And long time no speak. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Braylon, what's up, man?
Nothing much, man. Just talking about
Hey,
these
Dan,
Detroit
by the way, Braylon is just announced today on the ballot for the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. How about that?
Nice.
Sorry, I had to get that in.
I have been honored to be involved in that thing many times as the host, and it's a great event, and it's always, a great class. And you know what? It's made for guys like you and everything you've done, Braylon.
Oh, man, you guys are too good, man. You made me forget my question. Now I'm unprofessional.
Give him a 10.
I agree with you about Dan and Campbell and Brad Holmes, and I think me being a new Lions fan, span of 3, 13-1, 9-8, and then 12-5 in the NFC Championship, it's got a chance to see him grow. So every time that I yelled at a Brad Holmes move, it worked out. Every time that I said, I got to see it, I saw it, and I saw how they've increased in that space. So I won't have much to say about that. It's just the division is getting better at the same time. And I think that's what fans are talking about. That's what Maz is thinking about. You're seeing the DeAndre Swift sign the Chicago Bears. You're seeing the Kevin Byard move to the Chicago Bears. You're seeing Aaron Jones go to the Vikings. And you're seeing what Green Bay is doing as well. Should the Lions fans, or do the Lions fans, do they have every right to be nervous based on how teams are moving? Or should we just focus on what Brad Holmes and the Lions are doing?
Well, one, I think you always focus on what you're doing. And I think you can look at guys that they have on this team that are getting better. And you can look at guys on this team like Melifanu, who should have a full year now at safety, like, Kirby, who continues to get experience, like Aiden, who's getting better, Aleem, who was on track for a Pro Bowl type year and, moving up until he got hurt. And then offensively, look, Gibbs is just coming back for his second year. Amon-Ra looks like he's getting better all the time. Laporta's coming back for his second year. That offensive line is that offensive line, and it's the strength of this team. It's Goff being back with these guys. Look, you're looking for improvement here, but there's no doubt. Look, I said at the end of this year, this division was a heck of a lot better than anybody thought it was going to be, and it's only getting better now. Look, the Packers have certainly helped themselves. I don't know if they got better at running back. Did they? I mean, Aaron Jones is a heck of a football player. Jacobs is a heck of a football player.
Aaron Jones is the best running back in the league the last 7 games.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes these moves look great in March, but they don't look as great when you get out there in September. I mean, we've seen other teams sign free agents. And look, I don't want to be here throwing water on free agency, because when you use it right, it works. And I'm not here to carry the water for anybody and say you can't sign a big price player, because sometimes it does work out. I would submit, feels like more often than not it doesn't. And, somebody look back at some of the classes that they've had over the years and the top-ranked free agents and the fact that a lot of them aren't even on those teams anymore. So, look, I understand. We all have opinions, and it's fun when the free agent market opens to see your team sign those guys. But at the same time, Vikings lost their quarterback. They're going with Sam Darnold. That's kind of a scary proposition. Kirk Cousins was a heck of a player. Now they're going in a different direction, and that was not their choice. Chicago's still got a whole lot of things they got to hash out at the quarterback position. We have no idea who's going to be taking snaps for them week 1 next year. Caleb Williams, maybe. And then, look, Green Bay was a really good team this year, and it looks like they've made some changes. We'll see what happens there coming into next year, but not expected to be a cakewalk for the Lions to defend that title. They're going to have to go out there and earn it. But, what I would say is I still believe there are going to be guys, probably several, that, obviously with the draft coming, that aren't here right now that will play prominent roles for them next year.
I remember when the Lions signed Oz Hakeem in free agency. I was so happy.
They'll trade him. Don't forget
St.
Bill
Louis
Schrader.
Rams.
Bill Schrader. I was so happy, and it didn't get us anywhere. Dan, when you look at positions, thin at wide receiver, probably maybe another offensive lineman. Do you think that comes by way of draft, or is there somebody out there in the free agent market that maybe you go that route?
Yeah, Ryan, that's a great question. And I think there are still guys out there now that would make sense at wide receiver. We still don't know what's going on with Josh Reynolds. He could be back here. They know him. They like him. And look, the championship game aside, Josh did some really good things for this football team last year. But there's other guys out there that if their market meets what the Lions think the price is, that would make sense. There's a couple guards that are still out there as well, guys that have started in this league. I think they're monitoring all that stuff, and I think you could see a veteran guard still be signed to this team, and then they could certainly draft one as well. I think with what they've done, depending upon what they can add, if they add a DJ Reader or something like that, I think that puts pretty much everything in play at 29. I mean, this is a draft full of receivers. This is a draft that has good interior offensive linemen. So the answer to your question is, I don't know. I think there's possibilities that you could still see a receiver, an interior offensive lineman, an interior defensive lineman signed among the veterans that are still out there now. But, yeah, I think based on what Brad Holmes has done, it's also fair to say that you could see some impact rookies coming in that are going to play a role for this team from this draft, and it could be at any one of those positions again.
Dan, we assume Amon-Ra is going to get done pretty soon on a contract extension. Any word on when we can expect something for Jared Goff?
Look, I don't know how to differentiate those two. I assume they're both going to be done here at some point soon. You have to imagine that they've been talking, and I don't know if the current market that's being decided impacts where they are in those talks. But I have every reason to believe those two will be signed at some time in the near future. Aleem, I think, will get his contract extension at some time in the near future. But I've heard nothing that makes me believe that there's anything that is currently holding those talks up. It's just the process as the process goes. And it wouldn't shock me if in the next 10 minutes we look up and we see that they've signed a contract extension with those guys. I fully believe that's happening. I fully believe those guys are going to be here for the long haul. I think it's just a matter of getting through to the point where everybody's happy and the contract is, I's dotted and T's crossed.
NFL draft coming up in Detroit. How about it, huh? Pretty good stuff.
Exciting, man. I mean, it's you're going to have hundreds of thousands of people coming into Detroit wearing all different colors for all different teams. They're telling me this thing's going to stretch from Campus Martius to Hart Plaza, and it's going to be electric downtown.
Hey, speaking of different colors, real quick. Speaking of different colors,
watch it.
Stop it, Braylon. What about the new uniforms? Are we getting new uniforms? Do they unveil them on the stage at the draft, or is that a drawn out thing? What do we know about the new uniforms?
There will be, my understanding, at some point, some new uniform. I have no idea how that announcement is coming down. If that would be something they'd want to do draft week, if that is something they'd want to do some other time because there's so much going on during draft week. But my understanding is there will be a new look, there will be a new tweak. I can't speak to, how significant it is or what's going to change. I have not. I'm not in on those meetings.
If they need me to model,
I bang on doors, but they don't let me in.
Hey, Dan,
dude, you know me. I'm colorblind, man. I'm probably like the worst person in the world for uniforms.
That is true.
That's tough. Dan, just wanted to say, man, I want to let everybody out there know on Fox 2. Look, I will be on stage day 2 picking, but it will be for the New York Jets.
No kidding.
So don't get mad at me. I'm not a traitor. I'm picking for the Jets.
Yeah.
Day
Get out of here.
Second round pick.
Hey, you earned that, man. You wore that green and white.
Hey, man.
That's cool.
I appreciate that. So it's going to be a lot of fun,
Just don't take anybody we want here.
Exactly. I got to make sure I got to talk to Brad Holmes. Say, hey, look, man, who do you want?
Get that card and check that name. You might just have to make an edit.
I'll make audible. I call it audible.
I'm hoping you can pronounce the guy's name.
Jets haven't been back to the playoffs since Braylon left.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's a fact.
A lot of dumb moves by the owner. Hey, he got this one right.
Right. We'll spare you the
Hey, look,
Tom
we're fighting the
Mazaway
Bobby
questions
Lane
today.
curse. The Jets, we got the Bobby Lane
He didn't
curse.
hear
They
you.
got the Braylon curse.
Man, there it is, right?
Dan will spare you the Tom Mazaway questions
Yeah,
today.
I'm mute right now. I'm mute. I'm not going to argue with you.
We already fought with him, Dan.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Dan, we already fought with him today.
Maz doesn't know what to do if a guy doesn't have to clear waivers.
I'm not going to argue with you. Daniil Hunter, yeah, how can he fit here? $24 million. Yeah, I got to know him since he was born. He said, bring him here. Yeah, he won't work. He won't work alongside Will Anderson. Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter?
Oh, God. You guys
Come
put
on.
up with this all the time.
Every day.
Dude, for the first 20 minutes today.
He's been on one.
I said Daniil Hunter is probably my favorite player of the players that have made my life miserable. So, you know what? I was like, good, see ya, later, gone. Then I realized we got to go to Houston next year, so I'm just going to see him again. So it's like,
back.
I can't get rid of the guy.
Oh, my God. Dan, thanks, buddy.
As always.
Appreciate it.
All right, boys, appreciate you.
All right, we'll
Thanks,
see
man.
you. Dan Miller, check him out, Fox 2 News at 5, 6, 10, and 11, and, of course, on the Fox
I
local
just held
app.
my breath the
Download
whole
that.
time.
Well, I mean,
I'm tired of arguing. I'm just tired.
well, you're arguing about something that, again, we won't be right and you won't be right.
All right.
Right?
Exactly.
So it's like you just
We'll never know.
well, we will know.
No, you won't, because you don't know how we would have been here.
Well, if the Lions win the Super Bowl next year, you won't care
No,
that
I
they
won't.
didn't sign
I
Daniil
won't
Hunter.
give a
So
damn.
what I'm trying to tell you is
Until next offseason.
what I'm
No, they could blow the team up.
but
after
again,
that.
we don't want that to happen.
I'm just saying.
But what I'm saying is, if the Lions win the Super Bowl next year, and I do expect them to win the Super Bowl next year, by the way,
This year.
yeah, I think all of this fuss
Yeah.
is
Okay.
for naught.
Well, get me there then.
What I'm trying to tell you, Mez, and I'll just repeat it. I think your frustration is a next year frustration, not a this year frustration.
No, it's not, Ryan. I
Because
don't care about next year.
They have improved each and every
Yes,
year
that's nice.
that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell
I'm
have
happy
been
for
here.
that. That's great.
If they improve next
Yes.
year and get to the Super Bowl and heaven forbid win the Super Bowl.
Yes, then I'm happy.
Okay, so all this was
But
for
I don't
nothing.
care about next year. Okay? I don't give a damn about 2025 season.
I'm
I
talking
want to
about
win the game in
2024.
February of 2025. That counts for this year. Thank you.